Whammo Music is a Montreal-based management record company with major distribution through Universal Music Canada for the physical and Believe Digital for the world. You know, being here at Kit's Music Store is just unbelievable for me. This is where basically my music career started. Bought my first guitar in 1985. Met the owner of Kit's Music Store, Tony Greco.
I was fortunate enough to know Paul, I think approximately 1985, and I sold him his first guitar, which may not have been the wisest thing to do because it started his career.
So I met Paul in probably mid to late 80s, and I was a young up-and-coming producer. He was a young up-and-coming rock star. Had hair halfway down his back that was probably the envy of many women those days.
In 85, when I opened up the shop, I think Paul had the same vision. We basically wanted to unite the music community that was happening here. So I went store-wise, Paul went performing-wise.
It's kind of like a music store hangout and meeting place for musicians, and a lot of different people come by here, and Paul was here quite often.
And he opened up a recording studio in our basement.
He gave me the opportunity to open up my first recording studio with my very good friend Dan Cinelli, who's now the owner of Planet Studios.
I first met Paul in early 90s as a musician. We played music together, and we wanted a place to do our own music, and we built a studio together. And surely enough, that turned into its own little business, and I started engineering, and Paul started overseeing all the studio, all the business side of the studio, as well as recording.
Paul has been involved with a lot of local acts, probably throughout the whole 80s and 90s, all the up-and-coming stars, from Dr. Hadley to Crystal to Child, and on and on and on.
Then in the 2000s, he introduced me to a great artist called Jacinthe.
When I first met Paul, it was in 1995. I was about 15 years old. It was my last year of high school, and a friend of mine told me about him because he had been recording with him, and I was at the time the lead singer of a gospel choir. So I went to meet with him, and we just clicked, and he told me that he loved my voice, and that he could really help me become the artist that I wanted to be.
And Paul had decided that she was going to start doing some pop, and she was kind of iffy about the idea at first, and she felt a little out of place, but slowly but surely we tried stuff and it started to gel, and we ended up doing an album called Seize the Day, and it was signed to Universal, and we had a success with a song called Look Who's Crying Now, which yielded a top 10 hit.
Throughout the years, I've managed to develop many relationships with major record companies, presidents such as Randy Lennox from Universal Music, many producers, songwriters that have had lots of success with major recording artists such as Red One, Andreas Carlson, Jürgen Ellefson, Tino Izzo here from Montreal.
What I found very interesting about Paul at the time was the fact that he was basically manager and artist at the same time.
Well, you have to lead. You have to be sort of a leader sometimes, see their vision. And Paul's had that vision. He's seen greatness in a lot of people, and he's promoted them. And he's dedicated his whole life to that. And he's a nice guy. He's just a great guy. Like, he'll steer you right. Yeah.
Well, the thing about Paul, I think, is that he has the sensitivity of an artist because he started his career as an artist. So I think he can see things from that perspective, and then he used all of those experiences to formulate a way of developing and approaching artists and seeing it both from a business perspective and an artistic perspective, and that's something that I think a lot of artists enjoy.
At this stage of the game, it's important to have people come in like Paul, work with them on their branding, make sure that their distribution's in place, look at radio tracking if they're at that point, help them with tour support, brainstorming and figuring out ways to monetize their music aside from just digital distribution. It's extremely important to have people on the ground level, not just the major labels, to get artists to a point where they can potentially be internationally competitive. So I think it's a great thing, and we really appreciate having different labels come out and people who work in management and are willing to work directly with the artists.
For me, music is the future. Music has been my biggest passion, and the key to success, for me at least, from what I understand and what I've attained over the years, is that you need a great talent, you need lots of hard work, you need the right opportunities, and that will equate to success.
So what was great also is that, like I had a lot of ambition, and even though I didn't know exactly all of the things that I was able to do or that I was capable of doing, Paul always knew it, and he got me like amazing contracts, international recording contracts twice, back to back, and it was crazy because I recorded with all of the best people in the world.
In working with Paul over the years, I've also, Paul and I work together. He helps me, represents me as on the managing consulting side, helps me negotiate contracts with artists, and as well as creative input and helpful ideas and cues for mixes. He's always generous in sharing his opinion and his insight, which is always helpful for me.
We've done things that are unbelievable, and till this day, I pinch myself sometimes just to think that I achieved, and always with Paul by my side, and always with Paul believing in me and pushing me to get these things. So it's been an amazing career.
And who knows what's yet to come.